Hey. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. Hey, this is a platform for myself and those that I bring on deck. Uh, I'm Aaron Siebert, retired Navy chief, lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round. This is really for education of the public. For our sponsors, supporters, volunteers, our combat veterans, our veterans to come on deck to tell their stories and do a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to get into a lot of really cool and interesting things today. And I'm going to talk, Brian Colburn's on deck. He is the producer of the show. He's sitchradio.com. He is the reason why I do podcasting at all. I am his probably last live shot of opportunities of, doing live podcasting, because live podcasting is kind of a dying thing because everybody can just pop on anytime they want and become live. Everything's edited, smooth, looking sharp, all that good stuff. And we're going to talk about that. There's a lot of really cool things I want to talk about. One of the things I want to talk about, and everybody's talking about it. And, I didn't know Charlie Kirk's name when he passed away. I knew of him. I saw him all over social media. I saw him all over a lot of things, doing incredible things, talking to the youth, bringing up conversation in a very unique way of having some spectacular arguments and dialogue that was spirited. And this is something that I've always talked about with my combat buddies, with my buddies. It's like, hey, man, we can always get along. We can always talk. We can always do that. And I think General Mattis put it in such a great term when we go into the enemy's den. We want to get along with tears in our eyes, but we have a plan to handle anything or any situation as it comes. Now, I sugarcoated that a little, but needless to say, that's how it kind of went. But Charlie Kirk, he was dedicated to his faith, and he brought out the best in himself and in people and his life. And, I get to be part of an organization called the PTSD Foundation of America. It's a faith-based organization. At any given time, veterans that need to talk about their faith, that need to be involved in their faith, that need to change something in their lives for free, they can get to Camp Hope, that are dealing with all kinds of problems that they just can't deal with society anymore. They're on that last leg of their lives and about to end up in a place that they shouldn't be or can't handle the situations of life that they know it. We spent a lot of time getting guys to Camp Hope, guys. And if you're dealing with stuff, Camp Hope isn't the only thing that exists. Every day of the week, there is a warrior group going on some way, shape, or form. I run 3 of them a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I do a 1 hour warrior group, 1.5 really, because half an hour is pre-group and sometimes after group that gives us some time to talk. But those groups are super important. Lives are super important. I think it's super important for us to talk. It's super important for us to have faith and talk about things that are super important, that just to keep us alive and moving forward in positive directions. That's where I wanted to just talk about that. There's a lot of things I want to talk about, and we'll get into that. We'll get into a lot of different things, but I'm lucky to have this podcast. I'm lucky to have Brian Colburn on deck, and we'll hash out a lot of really cool things. And I'm really sorry for our loss of Charlie Kirk, phenomenal human being. And I hope that we carry on his legacy as human beings in the best possible ways in our futures. So until next time, that's all I got about that. And we'll get into it with Brian Colburn. And Brian Colburn on deck, Sitch Radio, podcaster extraordinary, just awesome guy. He's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Brian, hey, thanks a lot for being on deck. Thanks a lot for doing this. I mean, he's on deck anyway, all the time, behind the scenes, doing all this. So, hey, Brian, thanks for being on deck today.
Yeah, it's weird to be on screen.
Yeah, you spend so much time behind it, and but your voice is always around.
I do my best. I do my best.
Yeah, you've came a long way, man. Let's start from the top. What you're doing right now. Feed Drops, dude. Feed Drops is something super, super cool. I listen to it all the time. It's always checking out. It gives you some ideas on some really cool podcasts that are out there. You're always rating them, giving them some pointers from how the mic sounds to how they're, mixing their stuff to some really incredible stuff. Talk about Feed Drops a little bit.
Yeah, Feed Drops was actually a brainchild of a guy named Linz Florin. Him and I started it together. He ran Growth Network podcasts out of Los Angeles. I ran Sitch Radio here in Orange County. And we came together to collaborate and just bring to light some good podcasts. And the thought back then was, I listen to an episode, he listens to an episode, we come together and talk about them. Things happened in his life to where he's no longer producing the show. I took it over and revamped it. And I have a 10 subject scoring matrix where I listen to an episode and I rank it across these 10 categories. And the school of thought is threefold. Number one, it's a discovery podcast. People might find a new show that they've never heard of and decide to give it a try. Number two, I'm giving the podcaster some constructive criticism back on, where he might want to improve. He or she might want to improve the show. And thirdly, any podcaster can listen to my critique of a show, listen to that episode that I critiqued and kind of put two and two together for themselves to improve their content. So that's the basis of where it's at now. I think this week is like episode 46 or something. Been doing 26 now on my own without Linz. And in addition to that, we have a newsletter on Substack where it's myself and 3 other individuals who all own podcast production companies in their own right. And we've come together to write articles and tips, tricks, techniques for all podcasters to, again, improve their skill of podcasting.
Exactly. And speaking of podcasts and numbers, this is podcast number 258. This is under your belt as well. So many cool things that you've already expressed to me. You've taught me a lot of different things to the point where, I've set up this equipment based off of your recommendations, all this stuff. I'm set up in the studio at the VTRC here in Las Vegas, in the studio, far away from you. You're all the way in Los Angeles area, in the Southern California. You're able to make things happen. You're able to help podcasters, not just me, but you got Poncho doing his podcast as well. The field op that came to be because he stepped into the studio, said in my podcast, and then he wanted to branch out and do some stuff. So you've done some amazing help and support in our veterans community in a lot of different ways. Because from photography classes at the Warrior Built facility, Warrior Built Foundation down in SoCal, which helps our combat vets. I mean, there's a lot. We got some really good history. We go way back. So take us back to some of those cool things. Take us back to, and we got to cover your military career a little bit too. Got to get into that. United States Marine, and we'll go into that too. So go ahead, Brian, fill us in, brother.
Yeah, I mean, let's not go back to the beginning, but the back of my Marine Corps career. I left for boot camp on the 26th of June, 3 days after I graduated high school. And it was something I wanted to do since I was a young child, sitting on my father's bed, looking at his boot camp book and cruise book. It was just ingrained in me that this was something I was going to do. Was fortunate enough to serve in a security force unit in Adak, Alaska. Not fortunate to be in Adak, Alaska, but to get a B billet out of my way right out of the gate. So after boot camp and schools, I flew up to Alaska and did a lot of learning, did a lot of growing there, a lot of leadership growth there. And then I was a barracks baby, run into the fleet, hooked up with 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, right when they were getting back from the first Gulf War. So now I'm the barracks baby in a infantry unit that just came back from a combat zone. So took a lot of grief there, and a lot of hazing occurred. However, you live through it like we do everything, and was fortunate enough to serve in 2-7. Had some great leadership there. One of my lieutenants, we still talk on occasion. We follow each other on LinkedIn, and just an incredible man. And I really enjoyed my time in the Corps. It was something I always wanted to do. A lot of people join the Marine Corps, and after boot camp, it's like, oh crap, I've got another X amount of years on my contract. What do I do now? But, I was a peacetime Marine. When Panama kicked off, I was in boot camp. When Somalia was happening, we were shipping to Japan. When the first Gulf happened, I was in Adak, Alaska. So, I always missed that experience. But in hindsight, you look back on it and think, maybe if I was there, I wouldn't be here today talking to everybody. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. I'm grateful for the experience the Marine Corps gave to me. When I got out of the Corps, I kind of bounced around a little bit, but in 2008, I fell in love with podcasting. In 2015, we launched our first serious show, produced it for 4.5 years and exited it. We actually sold it to a consulting company, which was an awesome experience to create a podcast, number one. Number two, grow it to the point there was value there. It was earning great money every year for us. And then we sold it, which was something cool to experience and live through. And I've just been helping podcasters ever since. And it's a great medium. It's a great place. In my opinion, it's the last bastion of free speech. And, I raised my hand like a lot of people listening to this show and swore an oath to the Constitution to protect and defend those beliefs. And free speech is a very, very important one. And I know you started off speaking about Mr. Kirk, and this is just a powerful medium to where you can discuss whatever you want and is on your mind. You can use it as a tool to market products and services. You can use it as a tool to grow a following. It's a beautiful instrument. And as you've just experienced, Chief, as easy as it is, there's still a learning curve. We have a lot of subject matter experts that buy a mic and plug it in and start a podcast, but they're not studying the craft of podcasting, and they don't understand the tech side. And if they can't figure out why their mic's not working, they just don't do a show. And, all of these things are learned. And that's what I encourage my podcasters to do. I love sending some of them to improv training, because that improvisational experience, the understanding yes and to carry a conversation, is so important. I read and recommend storytelling books. The power of story is phenomenal. And when you marry that with a mic and the internet these days, oh my gosh, the power in that is phenomenal. And I got to flash. Usually I can pay attention to what's going on, but I got to flash this comment.
Yeah.
House.
Pacho, what's up, man? Great to see you, brother. Yeah, he's up on. I see it. What's up, bitches? I see you, brother.
too funny. And it's just a great medium. I've got to meet some awesome people. Every time I'm involved with an episode, whether it's live or edited, I get to learn from these subject matter experts in whatever various field they're in, from insurance to finance to investing to Bitcoin to awesome stories. We produced 511's podcast, over 200 episodes for them, and some incredible guests and things that blow our mind. I remember the host coming in. I'm like, what are we doing today? Because I never knew who was coming. And he's like, it's some chick talking about yoga. And he's like looking at me confused, like, why are we doing this? And I'm like, this is going to be a long show. Dude, 5 minutes into it, we're taking notes. It's like, yeah, yoga. We drink the Kool-Aid, but you don't get to experience that. And the fact that anyone can pick up a mobile device and download a free podcast player and consume and learn about anything they want is just phenomenal, man. It's a great day to be alive with the technological advances we have.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I'm surprised that I was able to kind of hook this up, but I know, it took me a little while. I went back and forth with you. I had things plugged in wrong. I had to get a splitter, do a couple things, but this equipment is pretty phenomenal, and it doesn't cost nearly what it used to, right? Because a lot of prices have come down. It's easy to kind of hook things into a computer and just make things kind of functional in a way that's kind of professional and really kind of amazing. And so I kind of feel like it's a totally different learning curve for me, is just being the guy that would just flip on my phone. I could do my podcast, and I still can and will end up doing my podcast from wherever, whenever I need to. But with this equipment, obviously the sound becomes very a lot more just richer and cleaner. The picture is a lot more richer and cleaner. It also depends on your, like you said, we're pulling, I think, only 6 megabytes per second on the upload. So the picture might not be as clear, but the sound will be really great when it gets, syndicated out to all these different formats. Right. So when you get into those technical things, you're giving me all this information so that I can give a good product to the listeners. Right. And I don't always necessarily consider the listeners in a sense of this kind of thoughts. My thought is, hey, I want to disseminate information to veterans, sponsors, supporters, volunteers, family, those that care about our veterans, the nonprofit organizations that are helping our combat vets and our veterans. Those, I want to get information and I want to know what they're doing. And it's super important to know that, right? So we get to learn a lot. And I feel like having this platform allows me to stay in touch in a different way. It also allows me to ask my guests to come on and tell their story. And in telling their story, I learn a lot. I learn a lot about that they exist. I also develop a great relationship with them and so forth, right? And you too. You get to develop these cool relationships. We got JB Brown. He's normally here. He's normally my co-host. He will be JB Brown, Chef Brown, renowned chef. He was here last week. If you haven't seen it, go back and check it out. He will be on deck doing his segment. He's going to have a segment, JB's kitchen, because he's a chef, and he's going to talk about veteran stuff as well as kitchen stuff and really some really cool stuff. To know him, he's the reason why I get to do it right here at the VTRC in Las Vegas, and he's making this happen. And Brian, you got to know him too, and so it's really great that we get to put this together. So feel free to talk about whatever you want to. And there's some other cool things, the photograph class that you kind of, that you had. There's so many cool things you can talk about. I mean, me and Brian go way back, and we have some really good times. We've done a lot of really cool things together.
It's amazing to me of how accessible information is these days. My wife approached me. She says, I want to learn to take better pictures. So we invest in some camera equipment. We invest in some local community college courses. We happen to be next to a great community college campus that's actually sponsored by Canon Photography. And I kind of put 2 and 2 together going, wow, if I could teach the vets at Warrior Built how to take better pictures and what makes a great image, they're going to be able to take better pictures, even if with their cell phone, to improve the quality of the social media content that's being put out. And quality of product is something that's always in the back of my mind, whether it's better sound, better story, a better image, a better graphic, the better quality we can put out week after week, the more perceived value there is for our audience. And that value is what separates good podcasts from great podcasts. And, I had a great time working with the guys at Warrior Built. And we actually brought Sony in. Remember when Sony showed up with their suitcases of toys, and we got to play with the latest, greatest Sony mirrorless cameras and
mirrorless cameras, right?
And dude, running around the shop, the Warrior Built shop, incredible place, by the way. There's so much texture and color and shapes to take images of. I remember the time we were playing in the Monster Cooler, where you put the camera inside the cooler and took the picture as if we were a can of Monster looking out. I mean, just being able to experiment within one building and learn to take better pictures and learn to look at things differently was phenomenal. And the guys were creating awesome content. And, I hope they had half as much fun as I did, just working with everybody, running around, taking pictures of spokes and chains and welding and all the coolness that Warrior Built has to offer. So quality of product is paramount. And we talked about the ease of podcasting. One thing I want everybody to know, if you want to start a podcast, in my opinion, the first thing you budget for is hosting. Yes, you can go to a lot of platforms and get free hosting, but if you read their terms of service, you'll understand why I say pay for hosting. That way, your IP is your IP. Nothing's going to get rewritten, nothing's going to get edited in a funky manner. You're in control of it. It's going to be there as long as you're paying your hosting bill. Pay for hosting. It's not that expensive. At the very least, that's what you budget for. And learn to tell good story. Listen to the Moth podcast. These are storytellers that go up on stage in front of a live audience and share a 5-minute story. No cards, no notes, and it has to be their story. And when you can put great storytelling together with the message you want to disseminate for the day, it's a game changer. It truly is. There's a lot of sterile clinical podcasts out there with very little entertainment value, a lot of knowledge, but no entertainment. And when you can marry educating and entertaining, it's game over. So, Chief, you've come a long way, man. I encourage, this is what, episode 258, you said? I want everybody to go back to episode 1 of Combat Vet Vision and listen to the first 5 minutes and then come back and go, yes, you've improved tenfold. And that's what the comment will be. And it's okay not to be perfect, especially in the beginning. We're all learning. Looking into a camera rather than on screen, making sure no matter how I move my head, my mouth stays about the same distance from the microphone as it needs to maintain a consistent sound. There's lots of little things that you need to learn along the way. You don't have to be perfect episode 1. By episode 10, you're going to be 10% better than you were. And that's okay. Keep going with an improvement plan in place. So there's 2 cents.
Yeah, it's always important to hear, all these different little things that you bring to the table to show me how to make these improvements. And I felt like they're simple improvements. And as you talked about, that podcasting has come a long way, technology's come a long way. I also feel like there needs to be, when it comes to veterans and it comes to all this different things, there needs to be a trust and there needs to be some experience, right? You need to have experienced some things in order to have that trust to say, hey, I will go do this because another veteran has already done that. You can look up something all the time. You can, say, hey, I'm going to go check this out and make sure that it's, it's sound. I want to be able to believe in it, and you can do that. And I think it's getting better and better at being able to be a reliable source. But a lot of times you get so many people, some random number saying, hey, we got a job for you, some random number saying we got this opportunity for you. And you're just like, well, I don't know that person. I don't know who's ever done this. I'm not doing it until I talk to somebody who has and who's done that and who's been there, especially when it comes to a veteran or a combat veteran, especially. We're not ready to, help anybody out or do anybody any favors or do anything that we haven't had a battle buddy that's already telling us that they've done it and they're ready to experience it again with us, or they're pointing us in the right direction. So our pathways aren't necessarily ready to jump on board with a lot of things unless we know that experience is going to work.
Absolutely. But that's such a personal decision to make. One thing, when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to call it this is my art, we're going to be the greatest. And I slow them down. I'm like, that's all awesome. Let's put that aside right now. What's the mission for the show? What do you want to accomplish with this show? And let's identify that. Now we have a roadmap. Now let's identify some KPIs. How are we going to measure success or failure? Let's put those in place and develop how we're going to measure and take those measurements to see if what we're doing is helping us to accomplish our goals or not. And when you do that, it's easy to make decisions. Is this right or wrong for my show at this time? And what might be wrong now might be right in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. But it's important to know where you're going. It's so easy to just plug a mic in again and start a show and just we're going to talk about whatever. Well, not everybody can be Joe Rogan. And I'm not saying they can't be, but what they forget is he traveled the road for years, sleeping in his car, doing stand up at little crappy bars across the country, growing an audience. He reffed the UFC for free for years, growing an audience. He was a TV host. So of course, when he drops a podcast, it's the greatest thing. And he's got tons of followers. But he worked hard for years to grow that audience. And starting a podcast is daunting. It's going to be your grandma and your best friend listening for the first few weeks. And that's okay because you're perfecting your craft as you do it. But eventually, I launched a show 2 weeks ago and we've got, like 1,600 downloads already. And that's awesome. Most shows don't perform that well in the beginning. But there's strategies and plans to achieve your goals, and that's where working with someone like me, I can help with that roadmap, and we can help make sure we're making the right decisions at the right time for the show. And whether we produce the show with you or not, we can consult on it. I had the awesome opportunity to speak to the production team that develops the show for West Point. And it's always good to get a second set of eyes on your show that's been around podcasting for as long as I have. This is a full-time gig. This is what I do for a living for 10 years. I know how not to do a lot of things and I can save you that heartache.
Exactly. And I think that's something super important. And I live for the aha moments. And I know, we talked about this a little bit right before the show. And, one of the things that I saw this week that reminded me of how humble that we need to be is it, I saw some story about don't be buying into your own hype, meaning, like Brian said, you could have the best artwork and you can have all this excitement about your podcast, but if you don't have that grounding of where you want to take it, and you need to live within the reality of it is, if you have 4 listeners, you got 4 listeners, man. Next week, if you have 5, that's your hype, and that's the reality of your hype. It ain't, some crazy, I'm going to have 1 million hyped up listeners by, the end of the month kind of thing. You just take it as it comes. And really, I'm not trying to get that. I'm trying to just to make sure that, that the information's out there. The PTSD Foundation's words out there, Warrior Bill Foundation, all these organizations, the, the Veteran Transition Resource Center right here, Recon Chief Incorporated, all these different organizations that I associate with or that have really made a difference in some aspect. You sponsor supporters and volunteers that are giving and doing some incredible things. Talking about that, Brian, we go back to one of the coolest things that you were part of, Voodoo Tactical, man. The one of the biggest, greatest sponsors for Warrior Build in gear wise, and making sure that we had, some really cool gear. Matter of fact, the guys went out and did some shooting this last week. They've done some things. Voodoo Tactical still sponsors us in some aspects. And that's what Brian was doing. Brian was like the salesperson rep for Voodoo Tactical, doing some cool stuff and made that happen. So you talk about some incredible things. There's a lot of really cool connections that are made that overall help the organizations that I'm associated with beyond what we got going on with this podcast, beyond what you've helped me with just this, the photography, the equipment. I mean, there's a lot of really incredible relationships that have been made and support that go beyond just you and me.
And at the root of it, it's networking, right? If Todd DeVoe never would have introduced me to you,
that's it.
And I remember the restaurant. I don't know the name of it, where I first met you. We sat down over beer and talked about a venture. It's like that networking and that ability to record somebody's name and number and maybe follow them on a social platform, but to stay in touch and let them know you're thinking about them every once in a while. The core of networking, I would have never thought when I met you back then, Chief, that it would have led to the relationship we have now with, again, Voodoo Tactical and Warrior Built and everything that you do and all the people you've introduced me to just by bringing them on your show and working with the VA to play their PSAs on this show and Pacho's show, who's listening. He's in the comments here on Facebook. You never know where things are going to lead. So learn to network, get a system down to where you can manage these relationships. A lot of free CRMs out there, but have a system in play, and you never know where things are going to lead. That's for sure. I mean, with Voodoo, man, I mean, I met Chris Rohagi because of Voodoo. I hooked Chris Rohagi up with PTSD Foundation / Warrior Built because some people needed to get clean before we could get them PTSD help. And Chris Rohagi was in that business. And it's relationships. It's all relationships and thinking of the greater good more so than what will this do for me personally. And that's what you do effortlessly, Chief. You're always thinking, I tell everybody, I know this guy. He was blown up. He shouldn't be alive. He has more compassion in his pinky than I do in my entire body for our combat vets. I don't know how you do what you do. And I'm grateful that there's somebody of your caliber out there doing what you do because our vets deserve it. That's for sure.
Well, I know, hey, we're almost at time, Brian, and I will say that one of the major reasons is because there's force multipliers like you that put me into a place that I wouldn't have normally felt comfortable with at all. But you're like, hey, man, you got a story. We're going to drive this thing into like these stories because you're dealing with all these people and these people have stories. This is what you're doing. You had the vision to see where I didn't necessarily. And you kind of plugged me into a position where I was like in an uncomfortable situation, and I became comfortable within this aura that you've put me in. And so you're a force multiplier to this ability to reach out to veterans. And by saying that, if you need some help, if you need some support, make sure you look up the PTSD Foundation of America. Make sure you're looking at the show notes because they have links to other supporting elements, or directly contact me and we'll see what we can do to help you out in some fashion. So Brian, finish it out, man. I know we're at the end of the show, but hey, thanks for everything you do and all that, brother. And then we'll cut it out of here. So thank you, brother.
Hey, thank you, Chief. I appreciate you having me back on the show. It's been a while since we've done this. And I love to part with these words. If you are consuming a piece of content a creator is making and putting it out there for the world to see, whether it be a YouTube video, a podcast on whatever of the 30 plus podcast players there are out there, and you took something away from it, even if it was just, I escaped the world for 30 minutes, leave them a review, click that rate, hit as many stars as you think they deserve, and leave a review. A few kind words go so far. Some constructive criticism is always welcome, but it does so much to motivate that creator to continue creating, whether it's this show or any show you're watching. Leave that rate and review. Let that creator know you're listening to them. I appreciate your time, Chief. I'm going to pop off here and let you finish the show out. Love you, brother.
Thanks, brother. It's good to have you. Hey, that's how this goes. The show, I really hope that it gives our listeners something that they can use. They can kind of, fumble and bumble around inside their hearts and souls, and it makes a difference in their lives one way or the other. Whatever you're doing out there, whatever pathway you're on, please try to make it a better one every single time, every single day. Go out there and make somebody's day a little bit better, however that might look. And until next time, strength and honor. Out.
The only way, and we need nothing more. The only way. forever, that's for sure.